I didn't expect to get to this point now, I'm gonna be honest, because sure, it is true that we have had discussions about this player, we've been following the tea leaves, going over each and every update because there always seems to be somebody writing or saying something about this one particular guy, but we haven't really talked about these teams. Or some of them we have, but not all of them. Because today, we are heading over onto the latest scoop by Kevin Weeks as to the hottest young player that is on the trade market at the moment. This show is brought to you by ExpressVPN. Go out there and check the first link in the description to save some money in your VPN, get some free months, and support this YouTube channel all in the process. Let's head over to Buffalo, where the Sabres have had a pretty rough go in this 2024-2025 season. Everybody always says, oh yeah, it's time for them to take that next step, they're gonna finally get better, they're gonna start stringing together wins, and to their credit, I mean, they do have 4 wins in a row, they're 6-4-0 in their last 10, but they're still 4th last in the NHL, so it's not really looking all too great for Buffalo despite the winning streak that they've been on as of late. And there has been one name that has been constant throughout this year's trade rumors surrounding the Sabres. Kevin Weeks goes out there and talks about it here on Twitter earlier this morning. In speaking to sources, I'm told there's plenty of expressions of interest from clubs in Buffalo Sabres forward Dylan Cozens, including the Montreal Canadiens, the Calgary Flames, the Toronto Maple Leafs, and the Detroit Red Wings. Hashtag Saberhood, hashtag Hockey Twitter. And so with this, we have ourselves 173,000 views, 800 likes, a whole bunch of replies, and people from the fan bases of all of these teams getting curious as to how it would go down. Let's just go over the profile and then talk about how each of these teams could benefit from a guy like Dylan Cozens. Because Cozens right now, 23 years old, I mean, he's young, you can definitely still have the benefit of the doubt of his career. He's making $7.1 million a year to the end of 2030, though, so the contract is locked in. He is a long-term bet. 6'3", 194, right-handed center right wing, the Yukon pride and joy, the workhorse from Whitehorse, who, this season, is on pace for 40 points in 82 games played. He is a far cry removed from the 68-point campaign he had in 2022-2023. That was just 2 seasons ago. And at that time, he was only 21, he was on top of the world, he had signed this huge contract, and people were saying, hey, this guy could become a consistent 70, 75, 80-point guy as a power forward with size and skill and tenacity, all these things that made him such a highly touted prospect back in 2019. But things have taken a turn for the worse this season. He has not been producing as much. Even last season, he produced a tad more than what he's on pace for right now. And so, with the Buffalo Sabres still being one of the worst teams in the NHL, you can make a reasonable argument that change is needed, significant change to modify or Frankenstein this roster, because what you got on the ice right now just isn't working. Sure, there are talented pieces there. We know Tage Thompson, we know Rasmus Dahlin, we know Bowen Byram, we know Owen Power, we know even Dylan Cozens, but to be frank, not all of these guys and their job security, it's not all safe here in Buffalo. So if we talk about these teams and the interest that they have, I am kind of curious about the Montreal Canadiens, because they are the first team listed here by Kevin Weeks as being interested in Cozens. It was always kind of a meme, wasn't it? The idea of Montreal acquiring Cozens because he was a first-round 2019 guy. The Habs already have 3 of them. They have Kirby Dach, they have Alex Newhook, they have Cole Caulfield, and so what more than to get themselves yet another one to try and complete that set in Dylan Cozens. We also kind of memed around saying, hey, if the Canadiens wanted to go after Peyton Krebs too, why not go out there and get all 3 of the WHL top talents from the 2019 draft, Krebs, Dach, and Cozens, but of course, we're only really talking about Cozens here, and ultimately, I don't know if the fit really is the best that it could be, because we're already seeing a lot of Canadiens fans turn their back on Kirby Dach from good chunks of this season. I get it that that guy was injured, and there still is the benefit of the doubt because he's so young, etc., etc., and Dylan Cozens has been healthier than Kirby Dach, but still, there has been a decline here, and I think Montreal Canadiens fans' patience is already being tested with Juraj Slafkovsky and Kirby Dach. I don't know if they have the capacity to open their hearts up to one more guy who is also in that same age range, who can have that chance of underperforming and not really taking the next step all too consistently. If they do believe in the potential, though, they believe in the profile, they believe in the size, they believe in what he brings and how this could potentially help out a guy like Slafkovsky, for example, then maybe it is worth a shot. Obviously, Kent Hughes getting involved in conversations for younger forwards has been a main priority this season. It's been reported the Habs want to get themselves another one of these Newhook, Dach, or a Laine-like types, the guys who are in that age range who can grow with the team and help them get better. But still, I mean, there are reasons why a lot of these guys were on the trade block in the first place, and you're starting to see those reasons present themselves in Montreal. Kirby Dach, it's consistency issues. Patrik Laine, it's consistency issues to the power of 100. For Alex Newhook, it's whether or not he's able to take that next step. Montreal's already having some problems developing these guys, and for Cozens, I don't know if that's really the task that Martin St. Louis wants to be given with yet another one of these guys who is struggling, whom St. Louis is going to have to metaphorically dig out of the hole. Is it worth it? Maybe. I mean, he's young enough where if it works out, then obviously there's potential there, but do the Montreal Canadiens have enough on their plate with the guys they have already? What do you think the trade package would look like, and do you think there's a realistic chance that all of Dach, Laine, Newhook, and a Cozens could work in the Montreal system long-term and actually become the players they were supposed to be? Of course, if they all fulfill their potentials, then the Canadiens all of a sudden have a top 9 with all top 6 or better caliber guys, but still, we can hope and see what happens, right? Let's go over onto the other teams here. Calgary. The Flames have been in a spot where they've already declared they're not trading away a bunch of their top guys that are expiring free agents. They want to keep their team together. They want to be competitive. Dylan Cozens, honestly, I think about Cozens and the way he plays, I actually would like to see Kadri and Cozens tear it up together. The stylistic preference, I think, would make sense here for Calgary. Same thing you could say about the Toronto Maple Leafs, because they are always looking for gritty guys. We saw their decisions to take on guys in that mold in the past, the Ryan Reeveses of the world, even the Joni Hakanpääs, and they're always looking for guys who can play a rough and tough guy. I mean, the amount of times that Lawson Crouse has been linked to the Toronto Maple Leafs is just indicative of that quality. Calgary and Toronto, I think, both have that style where Dylan Cozens would fit pretty well, and for what they're trying to build right now, if Cozens is on the decline and he long-term doesn't work out, then okay, fine. But at least right now, he is a guy who is capable of banging the body. He's got that huge contract, so obviously for Toronto's sake, I don't really know if they could take him on at full salary. I mean, would Buffalo want to retain for all those years until 2030? Probably not, right? So, unless the Maple Leafs fully do believe in Dylan Cozens' ability to bounce back, then it might be seen as a little bit of a dangerous move to dive into it. Obviously, there is money committed to Nylander, Marner. Okay, not Marner. Maybe soon, but for now, not Marner. Matthews, etc., but do you have the capacity to get another one in Cozens? For Calgary, it's a little bit more flexible there, I'd think, so they have themselves an easier path, I would feel. And then for the Detroit Red Wings, we've already seen Cozens' name linked to Stevie Y's team in the past. There were a few Buffalo shows that had talked about reported interest from Steve Yzerman and the Red Wings in Cozens, and we already sung that song and dance, but honestly, I do think that with Cozens and his talent profile, I feel a lot more secure in Detroit's ability to develop him than, let's say, a Montreal's. I feel like Montreal is, in a way, too young, and they're too diversified. They've got so many young guys that they're all hoping to grow and become better together that sometimes in that cacophony of youth, you end up with guys that might not be able to take the next step altogether, and they end up feeding into that cycle. With Detroit, because a lot of guys are a bit older, like, I mean, I get it, Patrik Laine is the same age as DeBrincat, for example, but like, Dylan Larkin, 2014 draftee, okay, he's already established. Lucas Raymond, he's 2020, but he's already established. He's fantastic. DeBrincat is there, he's already established. Patty Kane, Seider, already established. Montreal still has some established guys, yes, but a good chunk of their youth is not established yet. You're still looking for the best out of Dach and Newhook and stuff. Detroit, I feel like they could focus all their attention onto developing a Marco Kasper and a Cozens, and I think, honestly, that situation makes a lot more sense for the player, rather than going over to a really youth-heavy team that's in a rebuilding phase like Montreal's. Anyways, that's just my 2 cents. I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comments section below about this potential bidding war for Dylan Cozens and whether or not you think the Flames, the Leafs, the Canadiens, or the Red Wings would be the best fit for this young current Buffalo Sabre. Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.